we have a good law now in place, and we've been not having funds coming to support our sports. Should we say that this law is going to entice supporters to come back to support our games, our local games, and all our sports games here?
What is very clear here, government is being tasked to facilitate. If you look at the role of government is required to facilitate national sport federations to carry out the activities of sport promotion and development. Yeah. So therefore compel government to provide some additional resource. It may not be 100%. Yeah. But where government has interest in talent education and development, national team participation, international events, government should provide some support. But again here, it makes it a business for the federations who have their own constitution. When you come together, you constitute to become a federation. You have set objectives which you must meet. So one of the sources of revenue is government. I have already enumerated on the sources of revenue. International sport federations. We only ask you to declare. We're not saying give it to us. You get me? So definitely government is a facilitator in terms of enabling environment, enabling policy, but also facilitating in terms of contributing some resources to these federations to carry on the activities, which will always be consolidated annually in our action plans. You get me? That's due process in the budget of government. But what is also important, the criteria for registration of a community club is also specified under clause 26. The administration of the Act, National Council Sports shall continue to be in existence. So nobody should tell you National Council Sports no longer there with the new law. We shall still continue to be the more powers have come. We are body corporate perpetual succession, and shall have an official seal, meaning we are an authority of government to act on behalf of government in many ways. And our functions are very, very much stipulated here. The seal of the council, it will be determined by the board. And in this case, of course, the board is chaired by the chairperson and the secretary of the board. The function of the council this time have been expanded, but one of the key issues I wanted to bring here is that we have been given mandate to ensure that we promote and regulate all sports activities in the country, including but not limited to national sport federations, local governments, education institutions, communities, the private sector, as may be applicable. This is a very, very important aspect, and also to be in the front seat in overall promotion and development of sports in Uganda, and also to develop, manage and operate and maintain public sport facilities, which in this case would be declared by government. This is now the additional power that has come to us.
Sports facilities. You can look at Cricket Oval.
Cricket Oval is not a public. This is a government facility.
A government facility.
Yes.
And all the other
it is a public. It is public. Yes. It's not National Council Sports.
Doctor,
but this is a property of National Council Sports. It is also public property.
Yes, doctor.
But the others, which the government will regulate and say, public. This is a public. Government, for example, may choose to build a regional stadium in every region. This is what is being referred to. Government can have national stadiums, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 in any part of Uganda. That's a public property. This is what is being referred to. And those will be listed as and when necessary by government. Okay? The other issue is approving the expenditure by national sports organizations or funds that grant receive from government. So we must be able to approve their budget, facilitate cooperation, and also participate in Uganda athletes and national sports teams, international sports competitions, approve the hosting of international sports competitions and sport festivals, and perform another duty. Now we shall also maintain the register of all sport organizations under this act. We are supposed to work hand in hand with other ministries, government agents, departments in implementation of this. So to give us a wide role of networking with all the sectors and subsectors in government. This has not been defined clearly in the
Should we say now that the government has had the cries of the sports people, and now that sports is now going to be moving in the right direction?
Yes, because we are now creating avenues of partnerships, are working across, because I will be using this reference on clause 29 to approach any department of government, any agent of government, and in implementing this program. This is the power I have, and I will be quoting that particular clause 29. I note that this law under clause 32 talks about the composition of the board. The minister is empowered to appoint the governing body of the National Council of Sports, and in this case the representation we shall have from the minister responsible for sports. We shall have 2 representatives of the regions of Uganda, one of whom shall be a person with disability, a representative from National Sports Association, a National Sports Federation, a representative of the athletes, a representative of the private sector, and a person with experience in sports administration. This is how it is specified.
It doesn't talk about female, gender?
No. In consideration, there is always gender balance, because there is gender mainstreaming as affirmative action of government, which is provided for. And I think in consideration of representation here, the minister, out of the 7 people, the minister will be required to choose. Maybe the other beauty of this is that it has reduced the number of the members of council from 11 to 7. Now the 8th person is a general secretary who doesn't vote, but is an ex-official member. You get me?
Yeah.
It also defines the qualification of the member of the council, and the tenure has also been upped from 2 years to 4 years. And the person who is appointed council can only be eligible to reappointment 1 more time. So it's nothing like no term limits in the council. I wish to draw your attention to the secretariat, which in this case will be headed by the general secretary. The general secretary, at the moment is me, but can be anybody else. And it also specifies on the role. It empowers the general secretary also as an accounting officer. In the other law, the general secretary was just a general secretary. The other instrument was derived from the Public Finance Management Act, where the secretary to the treasury, who is a permanent secretary, Minister of Finance and Economic Development, had to appoint an accounting officer. And in this case, they said it gives also specification on who should hold the office of the general secretary. And in the particular, it lays down a number of issues for the general secretary in terms of its function. It also brings on board how is the general secretary appointed? The general secretary is hired by the general secretary is hired by the board. It is advertised
in the newspapers.
And then a suitable candidate.
What are some of the qualifications?
The qualification of general secretary is here should be a person of high moral character and proven integrity with the knowledge and experience in sports science, law, sports administration, social science, humanities, development studies, or public administration. That is it. But of course, the minimum qualification academic field, you must have masters. Is masters. In the service of government, the head of an agency of government is at the level of a director. And then in the structure of public service, the minimum qualification is masters. Yes, doctorate is a bonus. Yes, but you cannot have a first degree and you want to be a CEO of National Council. You're not. So the other aspect is that it provides for the role of the General Secretary in 2 capacities, as the Secretary to the Board, but also as a Chief Executive Officer of Council. It lays down also the role of other officers of Council who are appointed by Council Funds of council is also specified in terms of their sources. The mandate, the Auditor General is required as by law to ensure that the accounts of council are audited every financial year. The other aspect is of emphasis, which is a new development in this act, is a sports for schools and institutions of higher learning, which also has been provided for under clause 46. Council, in this case, shall authorize those activities in consultation with the Ministry of Education and Sports and Health, sport activities where pupils and schools and education institutions will be participating.
I have viewers out there that I want us to be also moving as we are engaging. In which country was this law benchmarked from?
Well, there are many countries we looked at. We have looked at our neighboring countries in Kenya. We have looked at South Africa. We have looked at South Africa. I know of South Africa. I know of Ghana.
Any country in Europe?
I'm not very sure in Europe. But I think the best practices of what happened in terms of the overall law, we had to look at developed economies generally.
Yes.
What is applicable? Like, for example, the aspect of commercialization, which is one of the new clauses in this. The commercialization aspect is basically brought from both the developing economies and also developed economies, where sport is a brand of its own. Sports will make its own money. And you know, sport brand is contained in its commercialization rights. TV rights, broadcast rights, image rights, all. So this is one of the new development that has come, which is actually what happens in the developed economies. But I said here, the aspect of sports in schools and tertiary institutions is well addressed in this new law, and we think it will create momentum and inspiration to guide the new processes to make sports valued in all our educational institutions, and also to provide facilities that they require, including funding, to develop the talents in those institutions. In the past, this was not very clear.
Look at some of the rural schools, the educational institutions don't have even have space where to put.
These are the issues which the law will provide, because to make it mandatory. For example, the minister will be required to come up with the specific statutory instruments to ensure that schools have minimum standards of sports infrastructure to enable talent identification and development.
Sports disciplines should be in a particular school, in a single school.
It is regulated by the Ministry of Education and Sport, which is provided for here. They're the ones who should come up with the sport disciplines that should be promoted in different schools: primary, secondary, tertiary, university, and other educations. Then the other aspect under Part 5, which is clause 50, talks about sport academies. In the modern world, sport academies contribute in TID more than any other, because it is more specialized and more developmental. And I want to say here that there shall be in Uganda sports academies to provide specialized training in particular sport discipline for athletes and sports persons. And in this case, it will be licensed by council on approval of the respective sport discipline. If it is football, FIFA must be able to approve and recommend to council for that license to be issued. We think this is one way to harness talents, especially where a government cannot reach out to. But also as a government, we are looking forward to have structures that are specialized as sports academies. Whether through a school system, through a regional setup, we would look into that.
Why do you think there was a fear, some of the public people saying that they fear to be under the academies, to be under National Council of Sports?
No. The point, if you listen to that debate, the Attorney General counseled very well and said academies take care of young people and children, and therefore government would interest itself to know and determine and regulate the activities of those academies, because they are dealing with, and because government is least they want to account on behalf to the citizen. So they would want to know what happens. Now, this is where the issue of the dual came in. The academies who are doing both education and sports. In that arrangement, how do you not expect government to regulate? We want to see, for example, are you doing it professionally? Are you having the trained personnel? That role can only be regulated properly by government. So it is to protect the interest, to avoid and also avoid exploitation, but to ensure there is order. And this will always be done, as mentioned here, in consultation with the respective national sport federations. Government will not do this alone. So it is intended for safeguard purposes, welfare, rights, and best interest of a child. Because if you are talking about the academy, academies are for minors. It's not for only people like you who is 40 years, or 50 years, or 60 years. No. The other one, which is a new question and very developmental, is the question of the National Anti-Doping Organization. The establishment of a National Anti-Doping Organization should have happened so many years past, because it's a requirement by the World Anti-Doping Agency, what we call WADA. And in this case, the government will be required under this to establish a NADO for Uganda, which will be a body corporate with perpetual succession and independent in its running. They will acquire all disposed or removable property and do another act as a body corporate. This will not be under us. It will be independent body, but for purposes of sport development. And it also lays down the composition of the anti-doping organization. And the minister will be able to appoint members of the National Anti-Doping Organization.
Is it going to be established?
Come again?
How fast is it going to be established?
Immediate. As soon as this is assented to. This is one of the issues. We already factored this among the requests to government for funding. Actually, to be specific, we have put already a budget of about 2 billion. If government grants that, then for their personalization, that will be the beginning support to enable them be established, and the minister shall be able to run that. It also details the function of the anti-doping. The other one is the role of the Uganda Olympic Committee, which is now being defined in law, and acknowledge that the Uganda Olympic Committee shall continue existence immediately before the commencement of this act, and also that shall be a body corporate with perpetual succession and an official seal, and may, for the discharge of its function and this act, acquire all disposed movable, sue or be sued in its corporate name, do all acts and things as a body corporate may lawfully be allowed. In accordance with that provision of the Olympics Charter, the roles are also specified to organize the participation of Uganda participation in Olympic Games, promote development of athletes and training of coaches and athletes to participate in Olympic Games, perform any other function prescribed under Olympic Charter. And here, listen. Subsection 5 of clause 54 requires the Olympic Committee in the performance of its functions and duty to recognize a national sport federation or a national sport federation that is registered by council. So you also cannot go and register a federation which is not recognized by council. Part 9 is settlement of sport dispute. This is where the arbitration aspect came in. I indicated that in my opening remark. Now, the settlement of sport disputes internationally is supposed to be done within the judicial systems, starting with the federation first. But in most cases, our national sport federations don't have judicial systems and arbitrations within the statutes of their federation. Now, today, for the news on wrangles, sport disputes are advised to first be handled internally within the arbitration clauses that is provided for. Now that the government has provided this through this law, would be required to have arbitrators who will be listed down to settle some of these emerging conflicts internally and externally within the framework of government of Uganda. And the minister shall appoint arbitrators who are nominated by members of council and the sports federations. The other details will be mentioned later. But it's a new development. Yeah. Now, the other key one is dealing with offenses under Part 10, offenses and penalties. In particular, An athlete, in this case, is supposed to be protected from drug abuse. So there are a lot of prohibition clauses, prohibition of doping, prohibition of unlawful utilization of commercial rights, prohibition of unauthorized use of sports results like betting. People are doing it this time now, their days are numbered. Fixing matches, not match fixing.
Match fixing.
Yes, basically. Prohibition of betting by specified persons. Prohibition of manipulation of sport results, sports competition.
What's the punishment?
Predetermined. The laws are here very serious. I would not want to. If you know the penalties that come with are there. But they require you to be responsible and report. If you fail to report, in itself it becomes an offense. And in this case, you will be liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 5,000 currency points or a term of imprisonment not exceeding 5 years or both. Generally. So it's not an easy thing. It's more like a capital offense. Yeah. Prohibition of acts of violence and hooliganism. Some of the games have ended up in disarray because of indiscipline, hooliganism. This is being provided for. So there's nobody who's going to be a monopoly of violence under this law. You will be picked and you will be charged and you will be prosecuted. The other one is provision of exploitation for participants in sport activities, people who exploit players. For example, if you contravene any of this article, you will be subjected to a fine. In this case, a person is not allowed to emotionally, financially, or sexually exploit a participant in a sport event or competition. And this is very dangerous. It is applicable to both athletes themselves, their administrators, and technical people, and the managers of the players. We have had these cases already. Prohibition of electronic media production of sport events. This is what we talk about. Somebody who has produced a brand, and you go to Nambole, football is being played, you record and you start taking advantage of it. There must be an owner. So those clauses protect the producers of brands in sports, because that's what they will sell.
If I'm a fan and I go with my friends,
you pay for it. I mean, you of course definitely the regulator will have minimum standards for such, which will be clearly communicated. But you not allow, for example, for you to go with your camera like this and you record a match which you have not prepared. It's not your brand. It becomes an offense. If you want to do, you must pay. You must compensate the one who has produced. So some of the people who have been doing it wrongly will find it very hard in the circumstance. But for us, innovation, because it's protecting interest, commercial interest, of people who organize events. You see, bring a player to play on the court.
it's not easy.
By the time the player comes to play a football match, somebody has invested a lot of money in that player to produce the product you are coming to enjoy as a football fan. So that person must be compensated in his product. This is what the law is now prohibiting. That becomes illegal. Let the person who has produced enjoy, sell, and earn money. Are we together? Another one is public. It also provides for participation of minors in sport activities. Talks about a minor to be 16 years of age or more, and 16 years in this case. It talks about public sport facilities to be vested in the council, and we are not allowed to sell, lease, mortgage, or dispose of the land without authorization. This is very important to protect us from the abuses and the complaints which has been coming that football grounds have been encroached on, being sold, sports bomber grounds have been sold, have been leased to other, this is why this thing is coming out. Of course, Clause 76 is more direct on ownership of commercial rights, where every national sport federation or association to become regional owners of their sport brands. You don't just walk in and do business of producing a product which is not registered in your names. So we are giving more autonomy here to the federations to develop their brands and sell their brands and own it. There is also protection from liability of board officers and staff. Duty not to disclose information. This is administrative. Amendment of schedules and transfer of contracts, assets and liabilities. When this act is commenced, employed by council, this act shall continue in the employment of council. But we are going to do the structuring to provide for some other additional offices that may be recommended as a result of this to enable us to perform our duties quite well. Pending court proceedings and the rest. So the rest, I would say, are schedules of the various federations that have been noted under this on the page 55 and page 56, and the conduct of business and affairs of the board is also put on schedule 3 respectively. The quorum is 5 members out of the 6 and the rest of it all. So for me, this is what this law is all about. I look forward for its successful implementation once assented to by the president, and I look forward to disseminate this information to the public once assented to, and to also say that we want to work with every stakeholder in this country to make Uganda sport industry grow from strength to strength, and to ensure that Uganda should be one of the countries in Africa to start exporting talents for professional growth and development in Europe and other parts of the world. We note that Uganda is a blessed nation. We have abundant talent, and the people and the government cherish and love sports. We look forward for a better sport development agenda with the commencement of this law, the National Sports Law. I salute you all.
All right, it's been interesting the other discussion here with Dr. Ogwel Benard. We are looking at the sports bill as being passed by the Parliament. We are going to be looking for other key stakeholders in the sports committee to get their opinion regarding the sports bill that has been passed. I hope you've enjoyed the matter and discussion. My name is Duke Mwesigwa. Have a lovely time. Don't forget to subscribe to Media Expert. Have a lovely time.